Hello tubers, Mescal here. I've been working on this piece for a while and I'm not really happy with the fitment of the stone. I'm just trying to work out what I'm going to do next, and if you look at the gap behind, see if I can get you a good shot of the gap that I'm trying to get rid of. So if we're looking down in here, that gap there, so what I need to do is work out how much material to remove, and I'm gonna cut it right there, and then I'm gonna unsolder that piece and then resolder that back into there after bending this piece around and then straightening that back into keeping that in line, and then I can get on with cleaning it up and buffing it and polishing it. There's also a gap at the back here, which I might drop some medium solder into, because that joint there is done with hard solder. I can fill that up with medium solder. Right, so I think I'm pretty safe to just chop that right there. I had the tool around the way that I did, so that I've cut and left a flat spot, because the way these blades will cut, they'll give you a flat and a pointed chisel tip. So if you look closely at the cut there, you can see this side's flat, whereas this side's pointed. Can I get any closer on that? No. Just be easier to cut it off and sand it. It looks like I'm going to curl up the tip of that and make all sorts of trouble for myself. I'll just cut and sand it off and join it. It's going to be easier. It can be quite difficult getting focus on things when you've got a background like this. The phone wants to snap to the background, and then you've got something in front and it just stays out of focus until you sort of... It's very annoying. This is my scrap silver. Everything goes in there, in sanding, filing, even the bits of paper that have, you know, when I've got polishing dust all over my fingers. I'm going to set it up so there's a bit of tension pushing the joints together. Test fit the stone. I'll straighten that out there. Okay, that looks good. I use borax paste, which is just borax powder, a little bit of water. You just mix it up till it looks pasty. Use a wooden stick to apply it. Don't need much. More than enough, and then I'll dry that off with hitting it with the blowtorch gently, and that'll take away the moisture because it'll bubble up. It does a weird bubbling up thing when it dries. The borax will bubble, and that'll push off the joint. If you've got a bit of solder sitting there, it'll push it off. So you want to dry it first before you do that. Just out of shot here, cutting up a piece of hard solder to flatten out and bend into a little staple that I'll use. I'm just down on the anvil, flattening and bending. Here's the piece here. This is hard solder, and I just fold it into like a little staple that makes it sit well in the spot. And if you're concerned about having not enough silver in your join, then be heavy-handed with your solder. Now, I haven't dried it out yet, so I'll just dry it off. My little torch, there's a smaller torch here somewhere. As I dry this, you'll see the white frosty bubbles that have appeared. And now I can place my little bit of silver solder onto that joint. This is where things get quite tricky, is placing it, because it can easily fall off. Okay, and now we'll just hit that until it flows into the joint. You've got to be careful that you don't blow it off with the pressure of the flame as well. And you heat around so that you've got the job hot as well, so that the solder will sit down and flow into the joint. It's just starting to warm up now. It'll be a dull glow when it flows in. You want to be quick to pull it away, otherwise you can melt the actual job. Okay, starting to flow in now. I don't know how good that looks. It looks pretty crappy actually. I might put a bit more solder on it. Again, I'm just trying to fold into a staple shape so that it'll sit on the job. This can be one of the most frustrating parts, is placing the solder where you want it. Oh. Right on the point of slumping that, so as I said before, it can be a bit tricky to get the right temperature and not overdo it. Just dunk that into a bit of water. Sometimes I will use acid, especially if I'm close to the end and I want to keep it finished and looking shiny, but I've got a lot of polish work to do on this yet. So there you go. Hopefully the rock will fit nicely, and the next thing I want to do is put some claws either end, little flat ones that'll come up and around the ends of the stone. Just going to tidy up the join and see how well and clean that worked. Check the fit, and I want to grind that or sand that away, file that away so that I can't see where that join is made. Stretch it out a bit because we squeezed it a fair bit with fiddling around getting the lines right for the join. Okay, it's a lot tighter than it was, so that's good. Since it's just been heated to glowing, it should be fairly soft. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now that it's nice and tight, that end, I might be able to round that out instead of filling it with solder to make it look like a tighter fit. To bring that back around in line. The centre line of the piece. More curve, I think. That's better. Room. Oh, it's back the wrong way. I hope all this work I'm doing is in shot. Some wonky lines along there I need to straighten out. This being a job that I've never done before, you know, it's fraught with problems of design, and they're the kind of things you learn to do quicker next time. So the time and effort I've put into building this thing is a lot longer than it would take me to do the next one. So, you know, it's kind of hard to put a price on your work when you're fuddling around trying to find what works best, if that makes sense. I've just bent one of those over to see how it fits. And I was hoping that I could slide that in with them bent. But it might not work that way. Oh, here we go. Yeah, look at that. I might not need claws top and bottom. I might just be able to get away with putting it on one end. But I don't want it to pop out like that. Focus is on the job, not the bloody bench. Thank you. I want to shorten that as well, so I'm just nip that off nice and short. So I've just got the claw. And I'll round that up. Might be a case of do it last. I'm just cleaning up faces, looking for obvious scratches or dings or marks I've made with the tools, you know, like plier marks and stuff, or lines where the join of the solder is. I've rounded up that as well. I'll just zoom in so you can see what's going on here a bit better. Yeah, so I've rounded that up. I'm just doing this, holding it in my hand. It's pretty soft, doesn't require putting it on the peg. I've rounded out the bottom there with a round file. Let's see in there, I've filed all that out. just got a half back file here, and I'm half round, I'm just coming into that area there to try and I'm just going over this scroll at the back side here, clean it up where it's got a few dents and marks from being heated and slumping, and fix up the curves. Piece there was a bit chunky and it was a bit thick on there because I'd filed more here and more here, so I'm just trying to